Here are 5 things you didn't know about propane explosions. First, when a 20-pound propane tank explodes, it becomes a 200 miles per hour missile that can fly over half a mile. That's like getting hit by artillery fired from your neighbor's backyard. Second, overheated tanks don't just leak, they rupture and turn into flaming projectiles that punch through concrete walls like they're made of paper. Third, the physics are terrifying. Liquid propane instantly becomes gas, creating explosive decompression that tears metal apart in milliseconds. Fourth, propane fireballs reach 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit and consume oxygen so fast they create vacuum effects that can collapse your lungs. Even worse, those safety relief valves everyone trusts completely fail when tanks are heated from the outside. Fifth, a single propane tank explosion releases energy equal to 250 pounds of TNT. That's enough destructive force to level every building within a 300-foot radius. Your backyard barbecue is basically a bomb waiting for the right conditions. What if a major city's underground steam system completely failed during the coldest day of winter? Beneath Manhattan, pipes carry superheated steam at 400 degrees Fahrenheit to heat thousands of buildings. But these systems are over a century old, and the pressure is immense. One catastrophic rupture would send scalding steam erupting through manholes like deadly geysers. Anyone caught nearby would be instantly boiled alive by the 400-degree blast. But that's just the beginning. The sudden pressure drop would trigger a chain reaction across miles of underground pipes. Each rupture would make the next one inevitable. Steam would build up beneath entire city blocks, turning the underground into a massive pressure cooker. Streets would literally explode upward, launching cars and debris hundreds of feet into the air. Entire neighborhoods would become furnaces as steam pressure seeks any way to escape. The terrifying truth? Most major cities operate these aging steam systems at dangerous pressures every single day. One failure could turn any metropolis into a steam-powered disaster zone. Did you know one corroded pipe joint created an explosion so powerful it registered as an earthquake? August 6, 2012, Chevron Richmond Refinery was processing crude oil like any other day, but deep inside the processing unit, sulfur was eating away at a critical pipe. Years of corrosion had turned solid steel into a ticking time bomb. Then it happened. The pipe ruptured, releasing superheated hydrocarbon vapor. It ignited instantly, creating a fireball visible from 50 miles away. The explosion generated pressures exceeding 50 pounds per square inch. Windows shattered 2 miles from ground zero. 40-ton pieces of equipment were launched across the facility like toys. The blast wave was so powerful it registered on seismic monitors as a small earthquake. Toxic smoke clouds engulfed the area, affecting 15,000 people. All because one pipe joint couldn't handle the pressure. A single point of failure turned an entire refinery into an industrial nightmare. Did you know that computer chip factories are essentially handling liquid bombs every single day? In 1989, researchers at Stanford University were working with silane gas, a critical ingredient in semiconductor manufacturing. The lab followed strict safety protocols because silane has one terrifying property. It explodes spontaneously at room temperature without any spark or flame. That morning, a faulty valve connection began leaking invisible gas into the ventilation system. Nobody noticed as silane slowly accumulated in the air ducts above their heads. Then it happened. The gas reached critical concentration and auto-ignited. A massive fireball erupted at 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit instantly. The explosion melted million-dollar silicon wafer equipment like plastic toys. Reinforced lab windows shattered as the blast wave launched heavy machinery through concrete walls. The force created an actual crater in the reinforced floor. The worst part? Silane burns in pure oxygen, making the fire impossible to extinguish. One tiny leak turned an ordinary research lab into a war zone. What if a single support column failed on a major interstate overpass during rush hour? Picture this. Thousands of commuters crawling through traffic on a towering double-deck highway interchange. Then, one critical support beam gives way. The upper deck doesn't just crack, it pancakes straight down onto the lower level. Hundreds of cars get crushed between massive concrete slabs like they're made of paper. But here's where it gets worse. Modern box girder construction creates a domino effect. When one span collapses, adjacent sections lose their support points. The entire highway starts flattening like an accordion, trapping thousands of people in a concrete sandwich. Emergency crews can't even reach the survivors buried under multiple deck levels. Miles of highway infrastructure collapse from a single point of failure. Here's the terrifying part. Most urban interchanges have these exact same weak spots. One failed column could bring down an entire network of roads. The engineering nightmare hiding above our heads every day. Here are 5 things you didn't know about aluminum dust explosions. First, aluminum dust explosions generate temperatures exceeding 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit and pressures over 100 pounds per square inch. That's hot enough to vaporize concrete buildings in seconds. Second, aluminum particles smaller than flour create fuel-air mixtures more explosive than gunpowder. These microscopic fragments hang in the air like invisible death waiting for a spark. Third, aluminum's massive surface area to mass ratio makes it burn faster than thermite. The same stuff used to cut through steel beams becomes a raging inferno in particle form. Fourth, static electricity from a simple conveyor belt can trigger explosions equivalent to multiple tons of TNT. One tiny spark, and entire factory sections disappear in milliseconds. Fifth, aluminum dust clouds travel through ventilation systems and ignite throughout entire complexes. But here's the terrifying truth. Aluminum powder is a key ingredient in rocket fuel and military explosives. Every aluminum manufacturing facility is basically sitting on a massive bomb. Did you know underwater welding can literally create bombs beneath the ocean? In 1998, veteran welder James Mackenzie was working 200 feet below the North Sea surface, repairing a critical oil pipeline. Every spark from his torch had to be perfect. One mistake at this depth could be fatal. But something deadly was happening that he couldn't see. As his welding arc burned underwater, it was splitting water molecules apart through electrolysis. Pure hydrogen gas began bubbling up, collecting in the pipeline's air pockets above him. More hydrogen, more pressure. The invisible gas was building to dangerous levels. Hydrogen is incredibly explosive, 20 times more volatile than gasoline vapor. When the concentration finally reached critical mass, the smallest spark triggered a massive detonation. The underwater explosion hit with the force of 50 pounds of TNT. Mackenzie was launched 100 feet straight up through the water like a human cannonball. Underwater welding doesn't just join metal, it creates floating bombs in the deep. Here are 5 things you didn't know about water hammer, the hidden destroyer lurking in every pipe. First, when valves close too quickly, water hammer can instantly generate pressure spikes over 2,000 pounds per square inch. That's enough force to crush a car. Second, these pressure waves travel at the speed of sound through your pipes. Cast iron mains literally explode from the inside, launching manhole covers like missiles into the air. Third, water's incompressibility turns kinetic energy into devastating pressure waves. Entire pipeline networks can collapse in seconds as the shock wave races through the system. Fourth, steam hammer in power plants shatters steel pipes thicker than tree trunks. The superheated steam creates pressure waves so violent they destroy everything in their path. Fifth, every time you close a faucet, you create a mini water hammer event. Major incidents have launched 500-pound valve assemblies straight through concrete walls. Most urban water systems operate dangerously close to their pressure limits right now. Did you know that ordinary grain dust can be more explosive than dynamite? December 22, 1977, workers at the Continental Grain Elevator in Louisiana were loading grain during their normal shift. Inside the massive 230-foot concrete silos, something deadly was building up. Tiny grain dust particles were accumulating in the air, creating an invisible explosive atmosphere. The workers had no idea they were surrounded by a fuel-air bomb waiting to detonate. Then a single spark from electrical equipment ignited the dust cloud. The explosion generated pressures exceeding 100 pounds per square inch, enough to obliterate reinforced concrete. In an instant, the entire structure vaporized, killing 36 workers. Concrete chunks weighing several tons were launched over half a mile away. The blast was so powerful it registered on seismic equipment as a small earthquake. Investigators later found worker remains embedded in concrete walls 200 feet from the blast center. All because grain dust, when mixed with air, becomes one of nature's most devastating explosives. Here are 5 things you didn't know about explosive decompression that will blow your mind. First, people aren't sucked out of aircraft during explosive decompression. They're blown out with the force of a cannon blast. The pressure differential launches human bodies at 400 miles per hour through tiny window openings. Second, your lungs become deadly balloons during rapid decompression. They rupture and expand uncontrollably until they literally burst inside your chest. Third, nitrogen bubbles instantly form in your bloodstream like opening a shaken soda bottle. This creates crushing decompression sickness throughout your entire body. Fourth, you only have 15 seconds of useful consciousness at 35,000 feet. After that, your brain shuts down from oxygen starvation. Fifth, a hole the size of a coin can explosively decompress an entire aircraft cabin. Every single rivet and seal becomes a potential catastrophic failure point. One tiny breach unleashes forces that can tear apart a pressurized tube flying through the sky. Did you know a patient once experienced their entire surgery while completely awake and paralyzed? In 2003, Sarah Mitchell went in for routine abdominal surgery at a major hospital. The anesthesiologist administered halothane, the standard drug to keep patients unconscious. But something went terribly wrong. As the surgeon made the first cut, Sarah felt everything, the blade slicing through her skin layer by layer. She tried to scream, to move, to signal for help. Nothing. The paralytic had locked her body in place. She felt the cold metal clamps spreading her flesh apart, the surgeon's hands moving inside her body. For 3 horrifying hours, she experienced every cut, every stitch, every manipulation of her organs. The medical team had no idea she was awake, trapped in her own paralyzed body. She felt her intestines being moved and repositioned, waves of unbearable pain shooting through her. When she finally woke up in recovery, the psychological trauma was just beginning. This nightmare is called anesthesia awareness, and it happens more often than you think. Did you know a single metal rod turned a gentle man into a monster and changed science forever? In 1848, Phineas Gage was the most trusted railroad foreman in Vermont. Calm, responsible, respected by every worker on his crew. But on September 13th, everything changed in one horrific second. While packing explosives, the powder ignited early. A 3-foot iron rod shot upward like a spear, entering through his left cheek. It tore through his skull and brain, exploding out the top of his head. The rod landed 80 feet away, covered in blood and brain tissue. Incredibly, Gage stood up and walked to the medical cart, fully conscious. But the man who survived was not Phineas Gage. He became violent, profane, completely unrecognizable to his friends. The gentle foreman was gone, replaced by an angry stranger. Doctors could literally see through the gaping hole in his skull. The iron rod had destroyed his frontal lobe, the seat of personality itself. Did you know a woman went to a hospital for mild depression and came out not knowing her own children? In 1957, Mary C. walked into Montreal's Allen Memorial Institute seeking help for anxiety. Dr. Ewan Cameron was famous, respected, supposedly the best psychiatrist in Canada. She trusted him completely when he recommended extended treatment. What happened next was pure horror disguised as medicine. Cameron strapped her to a table and sent massive electric shocks through her brain, 20 times the normal dose. He locked her in sensory deprivation chambers for weeks, playing recorded messages on repeat. Then came the LSD injections, massive doses that shattered her mind completely. Day after day, her memories disappeared like smoke. First recent events, then her wedding, finally her children's faces and names. 20 years of life gone forever. The truth came out later. The CIA had been secretly funding these experiments. She was never a patient, she was a test subject. Cameron had successfully erased a human being's entire personality. Did you know advanced German engineering once failed so catastrophically it launched 400 tons of train into the air? The ICE 884 was Germany's pride, racing through the countryside at 124 miles per hour in 1998. Passengers relaxed in luxury, trusting the cutting-edge wheel technology beneath them. But deep inside one steel wheel rim, microscopic cracks were spreading. Every mile added stress. Every turn created more damage. For thousands of miles, the metal slowly weakened, cycle by cycle. Then, without warning, the wheel exploded. The steel rim shattered like a bomb, instantly derailing the entire train at full speed. 400 tons of metal launched into the air before slamming into a concrete bridge. The train cars folded like an accordion, crushing everything inside. 101 people died in seconds. A single tiny crack had grown into total destruction. The most advanced high-speed rail system in the world defeated by one failing wheel.